TNet Podcast, like, comment, share, subscribe. Click on that bell for notifications. In the house today, we've got the Happy Casualties from Venice, California. I'm going to introduce some upcoming shows real quick before we get to that. We've got on the 24th of November, that's going to be Jerry X. That'll be at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Aaron Dahlbeck on the 1st of December. That's a Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Rob Fish from 108, The Judas Factor Resurrection. That's going to be on the 8th of December at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. As you can see below, I've got a merch company. It's called Hell's Heart Merch Co. Use the code 20 for 20% off your entire order. You can go to the address there, hellsheartco.bigcartel.com. All right. So, like I said, my guest is a group today from Venice, California. They actually got in contact with me. I saw these guys on a Noise Avocation podcast show, and they're like an indie rock duo. I don't know if you guys have added any additional members or whatnot. And I know you've experimented with members in the past. So we finally were able to make this happen after immense technical difficulties on both ends. Ladies and gentlemen, Happy Casualties. What's going on? Steven. Now I can't hear you. Oh, no. Nothing. Nothing. I'm going to stop. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'll just pick us back up because I'm just recording this anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, Happy Casualties with Steven. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? How you doing? Thanks for having us on the show.
Absolutely. We made it happen finally. You know, I want to talk to you guys about what is your and this is typically a question I ask of everyone, like what is your earliest kind of exposure to music? Like was there music playing in your, you know, your family's household, and like how did you kind of go get involved in music after that? Did you play in a band? Did you like high school band, garage rock band? What do you got?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, my parents are like super religious. So like my dad sang in the choir and at church, and they listen to music on like car trips, and it was mainly like I guess rock and roll from like the 50s and stuff. And my dad some Johnny Cash and stuff, and my mom liked stuff like Enya and like Roger Whittaker. I don't know if you know who Roger Whittaker is. It's like a really
I know the name. I'm not real familiar with the music. I know who Enya is though.
Yeah. So they listened to that, and I think it was like when I was in grammar school at St. Mark's, there was like the girls that were like starting to rebel were listening to like a lot of glam rock, like glam metal. And that was the stuff that was on MTV. We didn't have cable, but my grandparents did. And I remember like that stuff being really interesting to me, not so much just because the girls were into it, but I just thought that presented a really exciting kind of scene, the whole glam thing. And I mean, I was in Venice, and that stuff was really happening just like a few miles away. So I remember like my parents had like the newspaper, and it would be like you would see those ads for like Warrant or Poison or whatever, and it was just like an ad, like kind of like in like a newspaper, because they're playing not too far away. So it was kind of weird to have something that's so big but also so geographically close to you at the same time. So that was kind of mainly where I musically came from, I guess.
I hear you. And so you've grown up your entire life in the Venice area?
Yeah, pretty much, man.
And so
Venice, Santa Monica.
How did you end up picking up like an instrument as a result of like listening to music?
Um, I think because it's when I was like in high school, there was no music programs because I went to Catholic school all the way through. There's no music education really at all, and I liked like these bands, and I liked sort of like what the image or something, like you figure you would get like famous and girls and money and all this stuff. So I think when I was about 15 or 16, I started trying to play guitar and the idea of being in a band or whatever. Um, but it wasn't until like I didn't actually join a band until I joined a ska band when I was like 19.
Mm.
So there wasn't anybody to really play with in high school. There was like one guy who played drums, but we didn't have a drum set, so he just played snare, and we kind of jammed in my bedroom. But there was nobody really at school to play music with at all.
How did you end up getting linked up with your current project? Like said you played in a ska band, and then how did that kind of seg from that into what you're currently doing?
Well, what happened was is I guess I just started writing more songs. I started focusing more on songwriting, and then um which took a long time to get like proficient at. And then uh it just I wanted to play with other people that would work on my songs and maybe work on some of their songs, and then it just like Survivor, it just narrows down where I'm like the only person writing the songs and performing. Like it's just me and Ryan really in the band. We'd like to have other people, but there's just like musicians in LA are like incredibly unreliable. So
That's just about anywhere you go, though. Typically, I mean, kind of comes with the territory.
I'd hope it wouldn't be like that though. I'd hope that like places like Arizona or like South Carolina or other places like that, like people would be a little bit more dependable. But in LA, people are just like incredibly sort of like flaky. But
Yeah,
because you were out here.
it's a different world out there. It's kind of a come as you are when you want a type scenario, and yeah, I've always kind of been curious because yes, it definitely does seem more typical of Los Angeles than anywhere else. However, I mean, what do you think that is about the area? I mean, like Venice and like Santa Monica, pretty laid back, like people just kind of get caught up into the vibe of the area they're at, and how does that work?
It's because a lot of people like sort of came here for acting or whatever sort of like higher echelon income sort of rackets,
Yeah.
Y- I mean, it's like I remember actually, this is kind of interesting because it's like I was talking to my drummer about this a while back. It's like when I was like, so when I was I graduated in '94 from St. Monica's, but like I remember there was like a warehouse music in Venice that I used to walk to with my brother. It was just like 3 blocks away. We'd buy like CDs or cassettes, right? And there was like a guy that worked there. This is like '93, and his name was Tony, and he played bass, and he came here with his band from Virginia to like make it. And like we went over to his apartment, and his apartment was totally like what you would imagine. There was like Alice in Chains poster, the Soundgarden Bad Motor Finger poster. It was like that deal, dude.
Mhm.
And people like came here from like everywhere to sort of play music. And then I think over the last 20 years, less people came to play music because music's not as viable, and more people came to work at Snapchat, which is right down in Venice, or other sort of places like that.
Mm.
So there isn't a lot of people that come here to sort of play music. That's, I think, one of the things. Whereas in the '90s, for sure,
It
dude,
was different.
there's all kinds of people.
Yeah. and I had the misfortune of moving out there to pursue a career in acting. I don't say misfortune, but rather, like it's a it's an industry where there's a lot of people um all vying for the same positions and the same job. And you really got to know somebody out there. And it almost seems like part of the unreliability too could be like, they get a better opportunity and they're forced to drop whatever, piddly shit that is you're involved in or whatever, and say, hey, I'm gonna go and do that. And like, but then also like just seems like it's kind of a vibe where more people are just kind of like, yeah, like Hakuna Matata almost.
Yeah, I mean, and you got like you do have sort of like the hippie kind of thing with like Venice Beach and stuff. But I think a lot of the people that are like kind of playing music are sort of like in this area are like older people. If you go like to the east side, like Echo Park, Silver Lake, things like that, you do find people that are sort of still playing music, but it's more of a it's not
That's
even really indie rock anymore. It's
that's the
like
hipster area.
that's the hipster
For
area
those
for
for those
sure.
who don't know, Silver Lake Echo Park is like, it's, yeah, kind of the like, I don't know. They probably have a bunch of different music scenes going on, but like indie rock, like punk and shit like that.
No punk. There'd be
None,
no punk there. No, no, not
really.
at all.
Well, so
No.
what
You
genre do you think is typical of that area?
it's funny because it's like 15 years ago, man, it was like all these bands that were like they were all kind of like variations of like Arcade Fire, and they all had a female keyboardist. That was the
Okay,
deal. That was the deal, dude. You're just like a version of Arcade Fire, and you have a female keyboardist. And so you kind of knew like, well, if you're going to try to crack into the scene, you sort of like have to be kind of in this sort of thing. And then there is actually a scene out there too that's kind of a little bit more, like Ariel Pink.
no.
It's funny because on January 6th, he was one of the guys that was at the Capitol, and he
Who?
went on
What is his name?
Ariel Pink.
Ariel Pink. I don't know.
He went on Tucker Carlson, and he talked about being a January 6th even.
Oh,
You'll have to
I have no idea. That's crazy. But he was one of the musicians that was in the area.
Yeah, but he's kind of part of this older scene that's not punk. It's like a post-punk dark wave scene that's out there, that's been there
Okay.
for a long time. So there's that, which is a lot of older people, but like he's kind of representative of that scene. And those
Okay.
people are like into stuff like the Seeds and like the Gun Club and stuff like that. It's kind of its own weird sort of deal. And then the more mainstream Silver Lake scene that existed like 15 years ago was like bands imitating Arcade Fire, sort of.
That's funny.
Arcade Fire, War on Drugs, or any other, those bands suck, right? Like this, like the War on Drugs sucks, dude. That's like a terrible band.
Why
But
is it that like things that are really popular can also simultaneously be fucking awful at the same time?
it's weird because it's like I was somewhere and I heard this song, and they were playing like very stereotypical sort of indie rock at this place.
Sure.
And I heard this song, and I was like, it's going on for like 4 or 5 minutes. And I was like, there's something about it that could be kind of good, but it's not really engaging as a song, and it doesn't really work. And then
Mhm.
after like 4 minutes and it's almost over, I'm like, maybe this is the War on Drugs. Because that's what I've always heard about them, is that they have this like 5 to 6 minute song that never really does anything that makes you sort of like engage with it. But then they sort of like there's this sort of like, because there's like that cred aspect out there, everybody sort of bullied into or cowed into liking these things or saying they
Yeah.
like certain things.
Sure. Sure.
And I think that's what worked for like the War on Drugs. I like them a lot because they exemplify that idea of being people being like beaten into submission into pretending that they like that band and buying it on like vinyl at Whole Foods and stuff, right?
I've never really heard anybody describe the Arcade Fire that way. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't even think I could name a single song that they played. I mean, I'm sure I've heard them, but like, that was a whole. I mean, when were they kind of? You said like 15 years ago. Um, I don't even think I was like even listening to anything new at the time. But yeah, I feel what you're saying about how like people get on the bandwagon of like a certain band and are like, oh yeah, we like this band, right? Right? We like this band. This band is good, and that just kind of seems to be like typical. And I will say this, like I've noticed that the residents of Los Angeles versus the actual transplants, like people that were indigenous to the area versus people that came for acting or whatever, are actually really awesome people. Went on a few dates. This girl, she was from there. We went hiking and she was like really genuine. And it's like, why do all the like people from like Oklahoma have to be like the fucking worst?
Yeah, but and I have friends that are from here that have that same sort of prejudice against people that come from out of town. And then the out of town people, like if you'd been here long enough, you would have had this feeling. Because I had friends that sort of like, I'm not gonna like really like feel comfortable until I've been here like 15 years. Like you feel like you have to sort of like accumulate a certain amount of time before you have your sort of like California rep where you can kind of
Sure,
be like,
sure. Yeah. No, I hear you. It just, to me though, there seems to be like a lot of you know yeah, people will find that it thing out there, and then in order to kind of feel like accepted, or like they all these other people will latch onto said like it thing. And I didn't really experience that with like a lot of the natives very much. It was just very like, I don't know, disingenuine, I guess you could say. I was just like, what the fuck,
what time period were you out here at? I'm curious.
I was there 2015 to 23 actually.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you kind of missed the heyday though. That was I
Oh,
don't
okay.
think that was. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just like we're with every. A lot of people talk about sort of like there's this. I don't know if you've seen it. There's like this nostalgia for like the early aughts. Like
It's
everybody's
so
like
weird.
everything after like '06 sucks or something,
Yeah.
or '07 sucks, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
there's like
Yeah.
a picture of Avril Lavigne or whatever.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
it's
It's
like,
very bizarre.
but in a of for like LA is like there was actually like some really interesting stuff going on in the early aughts that did kind of like dry up around '07, '08,
Yeah.
and it's too bad you didn't get to experience that, because I think that that would have been a little bit more interesting, because going back to like 2015 era, that's still, it's just kind of like, because if you go out to the east side now, man, you'll see lots of people that look like hipsters,
Right.
but there's not even really that pretension of like artistic activity going on.
They
It's
just they
kind
just
of just,
dress like that.
yeah, it's just like it's like they've kind of given up, sort of, but you're living in the post-apocalypse of giving up or whatever, the post-ironic apocalypse.
Sure. Sure. Definitely. Definitely. So if there could be like a genre that were specific for like each, uh, you know, I guess you would call. I don't know if you'd call it a borough, but like each section of LA, like uh Venice would be what? Silver Lake, we already said, was kind of like post punkish type stuff. And then like, are there
Well,
any other like areas that have like specific sounds?
there used to be a really interesting in Highland Park, which is also the east side. There used to be like a garage punk sort of scene. And
Oh, okay.
you still have activity like that in different parts.
Who was that kid that Ty Segall that recorded like 20 albums in his garage before he was like 21 or something?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think highly of Ty
I
Segall.
was gonna say, is it stuff like that?
No, no, no. These guys are like way more like, these guys are way more sort of like legit. Like they like they're really emulate. You know that what was that group Question Mark and the Mysterians? 96 Tears.
I'm not familiar with them. I don't think.
If you heard it, you'd know it. But it's
Okay.
like that Nuggets kind of stuff. That
Okay.
Nuggets box set. Like there's bands out there that like are totally like emulating that, or they were. And then
Okay.
also surf music too. So there was some stuff like that. And then Venice is kind of like Venice is really just sort of like, I guess, like Grateful Dead aficionados and sort of just, I don't know. It's not, there's nothing really, they don't really think highly of Venice. People don't think that people in Venice are really making interesting music. They never did. I mean, since like the Doors or whatever, but
Yeah, I was
it's
gonna say the
always
Doors.
been, that's it.
Yeah.
Ride the number 3 bus.
What would be the like? Where would hardcore and punk rock conglomerate then?
I don't think there is any. Well, no. Ryan,
Yes, sir.
is there any hardcore shows out here?
I mean, I'm sure if you look up, I'm sure they pay like those theaters, like the Bellagio.
Only on tour. There's no.
Yeah, I was
there's
gonna
no.
say, like the scene out there seemed kind of like I don't know. I didn't really get to spend a lot of time in doing music out there, unfortunately. But it just seemed like it was kind of like spotty, non-existent, almost.
What was the first word before you said non-existent?
Like spotty. Like there's
Oh,
like kind
yeah.
of pockets of it, like here and there, like every so often, but nothing like a Syracuse in like the mid and late 1990s. Like that place was on fire. But like LA, I didn't really experience any of that at all. So, yeah.
There isn't any, like, I mean, the punk bands from LA, it's like, what is it? It's really like, well, I mean, Black Flag,
Oh yeah.
right? But that's like Hermosa Beach. Actually, a buddy of mine, he lives in Hermosa, and like I went to go visit him, and you see like there's like this mural of like Black Flag,
Oh
like
wow.
near where he lives, because it's sort of like commemorating that. You know what? Actually, I have to rephrase something though. Orange County, dude. Orange
Oh yeah,
County
Orange County
has
for
punk
sure.
rock for sure.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
I was down there like it was like 8 years ago or something, and I looked up. I was flipping through their OC Weekly,
Mhm.
dude. It was like being in like 88 or something, 86.
Oh,
It was just
wow.
it was all just like punk, like the last like 30 years had never happened. It was straight up just like punk rock.
And
So
so how did you you had mentioned that Ryan had played in a hardcore band. How did you like I'm curious to hear about that, and how did you two become connected after that?
hold on, Ryan, what was the name of your hardcore band? Sub-Zero?
No, we were called Torn Within, then Outcome.
Okay, so they were Torn Within and then Outcome.
Yeah.
And then he came out here and were you playing hardcore punk out here?
Yeah, but we were kind of like new metalist. It was more groove-core.
That's not good.
Okay.
Yeah, some of it was.
So he was at like this, we were having a New Year's Eve party, and we had this drum set up in my apartment on a riser, and he was like really geeking out on the drum set. He liked it, and me and my bass player were roommates at the time, and we were like, well, hey, you want to like play with us? And he was like, cool, because you weren't in the band. He was playing with like some singer-songwriter guy at the time.
Street
Okay.
busking.
Yeah. So he started playing with me. This is like 2005, 2006. No, you keep backdating it. It's like 2005, maybe that. Yeah. So it was like 2005, and we started playing together, and it just basically, like, I mean, he's quit the band a few times and stuff or whatever for like whatever reasons and shit. But like, what else are you gonna do? Right?
Play non-melodical instrument.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
We're like brothers at this point.
And you said he was from Buffalo originally, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that had like some of my favorite bands ever from there. Like,
Here, sit down and
yeah,
talk to him
yeah,
for a minute.
swap for a minute.
Yeah.
So,
Here, you talk
yeah,
to
I
him.
was told that you were from Buffalo, and some of like one of my
So we had.
one of
Where'd
my
it go?
favorite hardcore bands ever. Probably my favorite hardcore band ever is from Buffalo, which
Yeah,
is Buried
Terror.
Alive. Buried
Oh,
Alive.
Buried Alive. Scott Vogel.
Yeah.
I went to high school with Scott.
Oh no shit.
I played music with Jay Galvin, his brother. His brother was really on the pulse kind of guy.
Oh, okay.
And
I
then Scott,
know there was Buried
I
Alive. Shit. Who
Slugfest.
else?
So when we were in
Like
high school, it was Slugfest. So my buddy,
Slugfest. Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
guys from Against All Hope were in that band. My other friend, I was friends with all those guys. I played like jam with all those guys.
Union's
Yeah,
from
I
there,
remember
right?
Union. Yeah,
Union,
Fade
Zero
Away,
Tolerance.
Fade Away,
Yeah.
Snapcase,
Snapcase. Yeah, obviously. Kid Gorgeous. You familiar with those guys?
yeah, a Kid Dynamite. I get them mixed up.
Oh, is it? I thought Kid Gorgeous was the guys from Every Time I Die and some
Oh,
other
there
guys.
probably is. Probably
Yeah.
is.
Some other guys from Buried Alive. But yeah,
Oh
definitely. I
yeah,
think, and lest we not forget the Goo Goo Dolls.
yeah, because they were punk rock, and then
And
he said it's too many rules, so they went that way. So that means you are a sellout because
yeah, their early
you
stuff
can.
is pretty awesome. I was
It was amazing.
really impressed by that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Rob
So
Tack helped Snapcase record their first record, and there's a very community there. But when we
yeah.
used to go to shows, it was like, people had their own lit tables. You go see Shelter, like there was a place called the River Rock, and this other venue like Randall Studios and
Yeah.
Iceburn, King's X,
Yeah.
Bad Brains,
Yep.
fucking all that stuff.
Yeah, man.
Integrity, one of my favorite bands ever.
Uh-oh.
Sick of It All, obviously, love them.
Some members have been on this show before. Yeah, that's wild, man. And so you guys were playing together, or you started playing on this set at this party, and then what happened from there? They asked you to play like permanently?
Yeah, well, yeah. So I got out of my kind of like heavy hardcore music. Played with the singer songwriter a couple years. Met him, and we just clicked, and we just started playing shows. He had the whole stage set up in his living room, which I thought was hilarious. And there was another band that lived downstairs, so it was like total chaos every day. It was still back in the day when you could still everyone chip in. When we were kids, if everyone chipped in $200, you can get a 2-bedroom apartment, so you could stuff 4 or 5 guys in there just to sleep.
Yep.
And then you just go ballistic for the rest of
That
your
is the
life.
truth. That is the truth. Yeah. That's typical hardcore fare, like
Yeah.
it's
Hardcore scene's different because it's all about if you don't go to the show, you're weak. You got it's like an AA meeting, kind of like, where were you?
Oh, you feel like that's the case now, or back in
No,
the day?
I'm just saying the culture is like that. It's like
Yeah.
every band supported each other. It was all about that, and he made friends. It wasn't just about the music.
No, I hear you.
It was
funny.
it's a very big hippie scene. There's no difference
We
between metalheads,
we
hippies, or
compared it.
hardcore kids.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody the other day, and we almost compared it like being in church. Like, yeah, we didn't see you at
Yeah.
the show today. Where are you? Is everything okay?
And it was interesting to some parents when these kids like they don't want to eat animals or do drugs or buy anything corporate or give away their information. And then now their parents on Instagram like he's awesome.
So, you guys released your first release in 2015. Now, what was the process of that like? Like, was you said you'd been doing stuff with the singer-songwriter, but had you what was like kind of the recording process of that like, and how did you feel like after that was all completed?
It was interesting. Sometimes we use click tracks, sometimes we don't. Sometimes our bass player was a good producer. Sometimes he can come up with good stuff. It was all a very collaborative thing, but just I don't know. It's just he has a concept, and I just try to just go with the feel of it.
Right. And like
You know what I
thematically,
mean?
like what kind of things do you guys like to focus on as far as like, lyrically, subject
His
matter wise?
See, I play a non-melodic instrument. His lyrics are intense. Unless there's a word I like that paints a picture, like rainfall, you'll hit a chime. And I'm just making a lame example, but for me, I can't always go on those lyrics because man, they'll take you down sometimes. When no, seriously, behind the kid, there's times where I'll laugh, or I'll see crowd audiences think we're Spinal Tap because they'll be like this, rocking into it, and then all of a sudden they're like,
That's
It's kind
funny.
of funny
That's
because there
funny.
are. He likes to be provoking, but it is funny. There's a lot of double entendres in his music.
Yeah.
His lyrics, so I find it entertaining.
So like this is incel core. That's your newest single. Like what
That was made
what
out of spite because we had these
spite?
we had these teenage kids that are all cool and they wanted rap and stuff, and we want to do something totally different. We don't know how to rap or anything. Of course, we say we do,
Right.
like and then they blew us off. Even the one kid left his computer here, and it took him like 4 days. I had to text him later. I'm like, "You don't have your computer," and he's like, his text was like, "Thanks."
And he just never got it?
Hey, yeah, like days later, but I was just like, okay, I was just knew this guy for
Wow.
like
He didn't
20
even
minutes.
notice it was gone.
I don't know. And then they blew us off, so we did it out of spite ourselves.
So this was like going to be a collaborative effort between you and these younger musicians?
Yeah, Steve's got it because Steve roped
Okay.
these kids into it.
Ta-
He's like the band leader.
Tag. Yeah, these are always interesting stories.
You're talking about the Bachelor Days EP?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
Is
so
that
I
what
was
this
like
incel core is on?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I was engaged to this chick, and then that like ended disastrously, right? And I was like, I wrote all these angry songs that ended up on that Joyous Songs of Happiness and Friendship album, which it's funny because that album was like, that's the closest we got to like punk, sort of. That's like my attempt
Right.
at like doing punk, right? And like so I wrote those songs and they were really kind of angry, but then like once it got finished, it was kind of like these are like funny. It's like sort of like funny. There's like this unintentional humor, but then instead of being upset about it, I just sort of embraced it. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like hilarious. But we did a Gigi Allen cover on there, the first one, which was Shoot, Knife, Strangle, Beat, and Crucify. And then, I was working two jobs. I was working at O'Reilly's during the day and Home Depot at night. And I was working with all these guys at Home Depot, these young guys, right? And they were like, they're all into rap, Like, I don't work with any white people, dude. Like, everyone I work with is like Mexican or black, right? I don't see any like white people at my jobs, right? These young guys, they're like barely in their 20s. They were like talking about like rapping and stuff. And I was still kind of like sort of processing a lot of my sort of disenchantment after my breakup. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, we're going to do like a fucking full on like mixtape. It's going to be called The Bachelor Days, and I'm going to have a song called This Is Incelcore, because from the song title down. So I'm going to like this. We'll have a song called This Is Incelcore. And then I was like, and I want to have a song, a diss track on Cemetery, that kid, because I like really dislike his deal. So I was like, I have to like have a diss track on him. Like I have to start a beef because I'm like a 48-year-old man. I have to beef with this fucking younger kid, right? And then these other ideas. So I sketch out these ideas, and I got all these guys I work with that are all like, and they all have like the broccoli top haircuts because they're like Zoomers, and they're all like, yeah, Steve, yeah, we're totally down, right? And then I booked the studios. One of the guys actually, he made the beats, my buddy Gabe, and then we did this massive 2-day recording session where we recorded the Gigi Allen EP, we recorded the tracks for the mixtape, and we recorded this whole other album that hasn't been released yet. And Ryan played drums on all the tracks, really. And so there's live drums on all the songs on the mixtape. And when it came time to go to the studio, I booked the time to go to do the mixtape. One of the kids, he texted me, he's like, hey man, I'm not a rapper, and like I'm scared, I can't do it. And I said, okay, dude, that's cool, I understand.
Because his parents would find out.
No, it wasn't because his parents. It's just he actually just said like, I can't do it. I'm afraid. He said, I can't do it. I'm not a rapper. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then the other guys, they said they were going to come and they just never showed up. So then me and Ryan basically just had to do the songs. And I have friends that are like really good. Have you ever heard of that group, the Shapeshifters?
No.
Okay, so there's a guy in that group. His name's Existerio, and he worked with me at Penny Lane Records back in the day, and like he is a really really good rapper, and he was buddies with this guy Cadillac Ron, who passed away a little while back, and he was a really cool guy. Those guys were just exceptional rappers, and I think that like I just really like honed in on like sort of their technique. And I did, well, first one I did was Reverse Suicide Hotline, which was, I think, okay. I didn't do great. It was okay. But I think it's cool because it's like the Wilson Phillips song, those are, it's not sampled at all. We recreated those female vocals. So we can't be sued for that.
Sure.
So that one I did first, and I was like, that's okay. But then Incel Core, it was like I had the first verse, and then we were trying to come up with the second verse in the studio. And then I was like, nah, I need to go and work on it. And I came back and I did it again. And then it's like we had the hook as like no more abortions, no more OnlyFans. This is where the free ride ends, which should be huge right now, dude, because it's like with Trump and everything, that song should be blowing up. People should be outraged.
So that song specifically was targeted at those dudes.
No, it was for them to collaborate with me on. We had like 5 or 6 tracks, and it was for those guys to all collaborate on.
Oh, and as a result, gotcha. Okay.
And then what happened also was like I'm kind of like really fascinated by Doja Cat. So we took one of the tracks and I vaporwaved it, slowed it down, and we let Ryan recite like his sort of version of Doja Cat's Agora Hills, but we called it Agoraphobic Hills. And so we did that. And then there's this other track, which is I Was Going to Ask You for Money, which has no rapping on it. And that's basically just this. It's an audio track that Gabe made with Ryan playing drums. And then it's a sample of this ATF agent who was like harassing this dude, and the dude called the cops on him, and the cops ended up tasering the ATF agent. So it's him. Damn. It's just him acting like a bitch with these cops, right? Which I thought was great. And I love the title. I Was Going to Ask You for Money. So that's what that basically is, right? So That's the Bachelor Days EP right there.
Okay.
So it all came together. I'm really happy with that.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes things happen for a reason, and sometimes you get something better out of it. So, yeah, no, I mean that's crazy. I just thought that was entertaining, and since you mentioned that you were collaborating with rappers on that album, one thing I noticed about your body of work is that it does go through slight stylistic changes. Is that something that's like conscious, or is that something like just kind of happens organically?
I think it happens organically because it's like well, sometimes it's like I like have an idea. Like I think for that album, the Bleed Worship Bleed album that has like the bloody wrists, like that album I was sort of just working on my own, and I was really interested in like vaporwave and like 90s R&B.
Okay.
And so I was kind of studying like 90s R&B, like Sensitivity by Ralph Trevant and Belle Biv DeVoe and stuff like that. And I was looking at the chord changes and stuff. And I sort of started writing songs out of that perspective. And then, but then like for the last album, which is the Of Floods Droughts album that we did, and we put it on vinyl, that one we were like jamming with my cousin Brian and my buddy John, and John was playing harmonica, and we sort of practiced enough to sort of just incorporate this thing. So I think what happens is it starts with a concept of like the title and sort of like what that title will sort of entail for all the songs, and then you sort of just create the songs with the people you're working with at the time.
Okay. Yeah. And, to speak of that album too, like the cover art is wild. And it instantly made me think of Slayer Undisputed Attitude with the, Slayer carved their fucking, the kid carved Slayer's name into his forearm, and so what was kind of the inspiration for that? That was like that was brutal. I don't know if it was real or not.
Well, that album cover got us banned from Facebook and
Oh,
shadow banned on YouTube.
oh,
And banned from my
okay.
girlfriend. It's really weird.
Yeah, his girlfriend's not happy with it either. No, it's funny because it was actually taken at Rite Aid, like when I was working at Rite Aid in Venice, and I had this buddy Beto, who was like one of the assistant managers there, and we just put the fake blood on my arms, and then he just took the photo of it. And then if you ever see the CD, it says like I gave them this like fake, like it was like an art exhibition, like it's from like this series of photographs or whatever, but he just did it, and I just always had those photos. And then I was like, yeah, like fuck it. Well, the thing was is that we did in the same year, it was 2022, or I think it was 2022, we did 3 albums basically. We did Joyous Songs of Happiness and Friendship, The Suicide Sessions, and Bleed Worship Bleed.
12 seconds later.
And I basically just wanted the album covers to be sort of the opposite of the content, so that the Bleed Worship Bleed album cover was sort of like this really kind of chill vaporwave R&B sort of influenced album, but the album cover looks like you sort of said, a Slayer kind of album cover. And then the Joyous Songs of Happiness and Friendship is me and my cousin in like a toy box when we were like 2 or 3, but then it has songs like Murder Yourself for Satan on it and stuff. So that was like I wanted to have that kind of deceptive marketing to it.
Yeah, that seemed pretty typical of a lot of those bands at the time. Like you would think it was a completely different different kind of genre, and then it's like almost like a bait and switch when they throw you with something completely different,
Yeah, like what bands? I know that that's a thing, but like what bands are you thinking of that sort of did that?
Well, I mean, a lot of hardcore bands did that. I don't know about vaporwave bands specifically. I'd have to kind of like dredge the depths, but like Ceremony from Bay Area, they look like they could have an indie rock album. And like there was a band a while back, like they were called Defeater. It was Defeater, I believe. They had an album, and it looked also like indie rock, like it was not Defeater, excuse me, Death Heaven. Had like it was just like a single color album cover,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know specifically, but I love when bands do that. When you think you're getting something, like you're like, oh, this looks cool, and then it's just like completely throws you for a loop,
Yeah, no, I like that too. I think that I never really listened to them. There was this band called Trans Am. I remember when I worked at Penny Lane, I never listened to them, but I had a friend, and he told me that like you would hear their music, and it was kind of like electronic or something, but then like you would maybe go to the show and be like super heavy and super aggressive music. So I always kind of like that idea of like, I guess it's subverting expectations.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, as a fellow artist, I can definitely appreciate those things, as far as like influences, like between the two of you guys, what do you think would probably be your biggest, whether you consciously do it or not? Like, was there anybody you consciously was like kind of wanted to emulate their sound, or again, was it like just kind of a conglomeration of things?
Probably my favorite band is the Stones. So I kind of like not so much emulating their sound, but emulating sort of like their consistency. And then I think like somebody that I kind of jive with is like Elvis Costello. Like I like songwriting as far as like sort of punchy and to the point, like the classic era Elvis Costello. And then I like Big Star a lot. And have you ever heard that album by Alex Chilton, which is called like Flies on Sherbert?
I have not.
You should check that out, dude. That's like his, like, he produced like the first Cramps album, right?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, he produced the first Cramps album, and he got really into like rockabilly, and he was playing with Tab Falco, and he recorded an album at Ardent Studios in '78, and it's called Like Flies on Sherbert, and it's just like the most deranged sort of rockabilly album. It's not even technically really rockabilly. It's really kind of all over the place, and it's got false starts, and it's got like out of tune singing, but it's not like Jandek or something that's purposefully really weird. It's like the songs are there. It's just they're captured in like a totally sort of punk rock sort of way. And I think like a lot of times I look at Alex Chilton as sort of being like, like that, capturing that really raw sort of like letting the accident sort of like be caught on tape sort of way. I go into that like, or I look to that mentality, and I'm like, I've tried to emulate that in the past for sure.
Okay. All right. All right. And I guess like as far as your goals are concerned, like for the band, like have you toured? Are you wanting to do like an extensive tour? Or are you guys kind of more of like a regional, like specific act?
I would like the tour if we could like make it happen. That's one of those things that like every year since like probably like 2013 or 2014 will be like, oh, like let's try to do a tour like in spring or summer, and then like spring or summer comes and people leave the band or whatever, and then you'll occasionally come up like, let's tour. I did go on tours with this band I played in a while back that was called the Schoenberg Knife Fight Ensemble, that was kind of like Mr. Bungle sort of music.
Yeah.
But I never got to tour with like the Happy Casualties, and that would have been, I mean, it's like a goal, like making like some kind of money, where it's kind of funny because it's like full circle. Like we started talking out like about like me looking at the glam rock guys and be like, money, women, cars, and you're like, yeah, and now you're like, dude, I just want to recoup my loss.
Yeah. That's the goal typically. Yeah.
So I would do it, man, because it's just to get people to sort of like interface with the music and give you their feedback on it. That's the most rewarding thing, and playing shows is like a really important way of bringing that to people. So like I do it, but as you get harder, man, it's hard to fucking prioritize doing stuff that's gonna like cost money, not make money, and then like deplete you, financially and
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, dude.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he was like he really lived that shit when he was telling you about that hardcore stuff. Like I never experienced shit like that, dude. I never was living in a room with like 6 people or whatever. And all that stuff you read about, like Jesus Lizard, when those guys were like rehearsing in that room that just had a sink in it or whatever.
Yeah.
Never experienced that. I've just been poor, but not like crazy poor.
And that's like, like Rollins, whenever he was in Black Flag, he would always, I'm pretty sure he lived here. I can't remember the book, but he would always have journal entries. It would say shed. And I'm like, did he live in this shed? I can't remember, but like, those were the kind of like circumstances, like, the artist would have to commit to in order to pursue their craft, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of sucks, but it also, considering where Rollins is at now, like it's almost like an immense like character building exercise.
That shed was actually, that was a shed that was behind Greg Ginn's parents' house.
That's right.
And he lived there. Yeah. But that was actually, those were the good days for him, because and I read On the Van when I was like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
And it had that kind of impact, because it's both like really exciting and kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
But yeah, that did definitely, like the Henry Rollins thing and that sort of mentality of like you're gonna like And I mean, I have that, dude. Like, I definitely have that where it's like, I'm going to work really hard. But I think what I prioritize more is prioritize more making the music, getting it recorded and getting it out there, and not so much like the live presentation.
Sure.
And but you lose that communal aspect of the music when you neglect the live presentation, because music's supposed to be that communal live thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's, and Rollins in that book for sure is tapped way more into that communal live thing than the recording thing. You get way more of the sense, and it's not just the communal aspects of you and the audience. It's also you and the band, and you working through these songs and working through these issues and these life issues and stuff together.
Yeah. Was there ever a band that you feel like you heard them on recording, either you didn't like them or you were kind of like meh about them, and then you saw their live show and it completely changed your opinion of them? You actually ended up liking them, or vice versa?
You know what's interesting, man, is you probably don't remember this, but there was this like indie movie. It was called Once, and
if you tell who's in it,
but it's like an Irish indie movie.
Okay.
And but it kind of got this acclaim, right? And the band that was in it, I think it was a band called The Frames.
Okay.
And my buddy, because it's like, it's just a buddy I worked with at Rite Aid, and he was like into indie rock. He was into like Kings of Leon and stuff like that before it got popular. And he was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna, like, you want to go see Damien Rice with me? I'll get the tickets. You just like come to the show or whatever." So I went with him to the show, and The Frames opened, and they like played, like, all their songs were just like not very good, but their performance was so engaging and they were so into it that you were like, I like these guys.
Yeah.
Even though you're like able to sort of be objectively like, I'm not going to listen to their albums or whatever. I mean, this was before that movie Once came out that kind of got them a little famous. They were just an opening act at this time. That stands out. And then there was this guy that used to be a glam rocker out here in LA, and he never really made it. His name was like Zach Daniels, and he gave me his album one time, and it was just like a 50-year-old dude doing glam rock, and it wasn't very good. But then I went and saw him, and he put on such a good show that I was like, oh, this is really cool. Oh, you know what? I have to say one thing. Skinny Puppy, dude. I saw Skinny Puppy on their last tour. This is their farewell tour. It was terrible, dude. And I love Skinny Puppy, but it was awful, dude.
Oh,
it was
no.
fucking awful.
How come?
Well, because the sound was really bad. The sound was super muddy, and there was nothing really like, there was no like dimension to the sound. And then also the songs they chose to play were all really samey sort of songs, samey sounding.
Yeah.
And then they spent so much time doing this weird, Ogre was in this weird like alien costume and all this weird stuff going on, that totally like overshadowed the song. So it was the sound quality, it was the choice of songs, and then the fact that they were putting on this kind of ridiculous stage show. These are dudes that are like in their 50s, older, and they're fucking doing this weird dissect an alien thing on stage. Sad, dude. But I still love them. I still love Skinny Puppy, though.
Sure. That was like, I got to see the most lackluster, I think, 9 Inch Nails performance I ever saw. Well, I mean, it was my first time seeing them, and then they opened for Jane's Addiction. And, I'm kind of whatever about Jane's Addiction. I thought they were fine when I heard them play, but like Perry Farrell was definitely out in space. I don't know what the fuck he was on, but damn, give me some, but like it was wild. I saw, who was it? Garbage. And I had free tickets, and I was like, whatever, I'll go. They're okay. And like their live performance completely changed my opinion. I was sold after that. I was like, holy shit, this band is really fucking good, And like they deserve all the hype that they get. I was I changed my opinion about him totally, you know.
But did you go and like get any garbage albums or you
No,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, I was kind of like, so I was like, you know, like, a little better.
I think you know what, actually, dude. You know what? I went to No Values Fest out here, and I was never a big Bad Religion fan, but like, dude, Bad Religion fucking killed it,
Oh, I don't doubt it.
and
Yeah.
it was awesome, dude.
Nice,
So
nice.
that was a recent one where I was like, wow, that was really impressive. I was really like glad I got to see them, and I hadn't anticipated looking forward to Bad Religion, you know.
Yeah. I'd love to go see them. They've been kind of on my bucket list for a while. What's a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Just work harder, be more disciplined. Don't fuck around. But the problem is maybe fucking around and being undisciplined is what forces you to be disciplined in the future.
Yeah.
Right?
It's well, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, you have to kind of like live your life and do all that stuff. At the same time, it's like, you know, you also have to consider like where do I want to be, what do I want to be doing, and like project a plan for that, you know, like goal setting, and you know, that's definitely something I wish I could tell my younger self too, is like, yeah, kind of make the most of your time, maybe not waste time, because I, you know, sometimes that's good, that's beneficial, you know, but like definitely you know, strategize your time better, you know.
Yeah.
And like, as far as you know, can we expect any new material coming out from you guys?
Fuck yeah. we got we did a my there's a buddy of mine on Instagram, Nothing's Cool. He's doing a Rocky Erickson tribute album,
Nice.
and we contributed the song Reverberation. We recorded it here, and we did that, and we sent that to him because the deadline was Halloween, so we got that to him, and it sounds really cool. It's like garage rocky. And then we have uh, basically two albums worth of material that we did with two different producers. One is the guy Matt Lynch, who recorded the like last few albums, and he has about 15 16 songs. And then we recorded about 12 songs with this kid that has a studio in Cheviot Hills in his garage, and we recorded about 12 songs with him. And I've just been, whatever money I make that I don't have to pay bills, I put towards either of those two projects. And we have a mix for one of the songs. I could send it to you, I'll email it to you, that
Sure.
Tim from Kicking Harold did the mix of, and it sounds really cool. It's like, it sounds really 90s, kind of
Okay.
like heavy. But so yeah, we basically have two albums worth of material that we're fucking working on and trying to get out. And we have that track that is going to be on that release. And we also have a track that just came out on a compilation that that Green Key Records put out just last Friday. So that's out there too.
Hell yeah. You know, I'll be sure to post all the links to all your material here in the comments and whatnot. And my last question for you guys is like, what sort of media are you consuming? Movies, TV? What are you reading? What's some new music that's really kind of like influencing you guys lately, or that you're enjoying rather?
I don't know if I'm listening to any new music. I was reading. I went to school for philosophy, so I've been rereading and reading Gilles Deleuze.
Okay.
And he's a French kind of post-structuralist philosopher. So I've been reading a lot of philosophy lately. I wanted to show you this because I know you're kind of into it. I used to hang out with like Hare Krishnas, and a
Oh,
buddy of
okay.
mine, Vrindavan, gave me this book before he went to India.
Oh yeah, that's Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Wow, that's cool.
It's super. Dude, I have Krishna tattooed on my leg, and I have Kali tattooed here.
Oh no way.
and because I've always been drawn to, like, I really like the Indian the Hindu sort of religious system,
Yeah.
because it's like it sort of puts the responsibility on you as an individual, and it kind of like, because I was raised Catholic, so I have this idea you have to appeal to God and God might help you out and stuff or whatever. And the Hindu thing is sort of more like, well, life is this challenge and you sort of have to overcome it. But as you're overcoming these things, you have to like sort of find this centering force within yourself in a meditative sort of way.
Yeah.
So I always have that kind of stuff going too. And then as far as TV, all I watch is 90 Day Fiance.
It's great. What a shift from like, oh yeah, like super high philosophical stuff to reality TV. Hey, you gotta have the yin and the yang. I feel you, man. I'm with you. I'll probably watch some murder and shit after this, but again, yeah, man. That's really interesting. I actually don't own a copy of that, so I'll have to look into getting one of those. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, though, he's definitely an exalted figure within the Krishna consciousness circle.
Do you know this like text? Because I've never, like, I mean, one of the things I love hanging out at the temple, because there used to be a temple here in Venice.
There's the one in Culver City, right?
There's that one, but there was one by Venice Beach for a while, for about 10 years.
Oh, okay.
And
I'd be curious to know more about the who was involved in that, because I'm sure I know some of the people, but that text I've not read. I am familiar with it, but it's like, I did the whole monk thing for like 2 years, and it's not a text that I had to read, so I just didn't. But I read a lot of the other ones, like the Bhagavad Gita, which I typically try to read every day, and then Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that might be one of the more individualized, personalized works. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in that, so I'm gonna have to see if I can locate a copy. That's cool, man. And yeah, like a lot of philosophy stuff. That's interesting too, because I definitely have a lot of Sartre's books. His friend and contemporary Jean Genet, like a lot of that stuff. But I don't really place a lot of stock in that. Those guys are kind of weirdos, and like even Prabhupada like mentions he's like Sartre. He believes Sartre to be kind of bullshit, but I do find a lot of his like fictional stories interesting, so I have a few of his books. So that's cool, man. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I didn't at school. I always focused on, because I got a master's in philosophy, so like I always focused on the harder stuff, like Husserl, Heidegger, Kant. Hegel, dude, you know what? I listened to an audiobook of The Lesser Logic. That shit's fucking intense, dude. Like, Hegel is no joke. It's funny because Deleuze's whole project is like an anti-Hegelian project.
Okay.
But like Hegel is like no joke, dude. Like, that's some shit you're gonna have, like, that's the thing about philosophy, dude. And not Sartre, really. I don't recommend Sartre, but you have to
being in nothingness.
You have to reread this stuff over and over. You have to revisit these works, man. That's the important thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It's cool, like religious text too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easy. The age of Kali is the age of forgetfulness also. So yeah, you definitely kind of like, these are the ones I get into right here, the Gita. And I mean, this is a small book. This is not like regular reading, but it's dialogue between Prabhupada and John Lennon. But yeah, this is a good one right here. If you're interested, I'll get you a copy. But
I got like a couple copies of the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, do you? Okay, good. Well, cool. Anyone you want to shout out? Anybody you want to plug on here? Friends?
Yeah, I want to plug Jay Garcia, because he's always done, he's like a guy who, he's a social media guy, but he also like you know, gives back to his community and stuff. I want to plug Jacob Gibbons. He's an Instagram, TikTok guy. I want to plug my buddy Nick's band, Petrov the Hero. And I also want to plug the other band Ryan plays drums in, which is the Potential Suitors. So that's all I can think of right now.
Okay. All right. And when can we expect those recordings, you think?
Just, man, when I make some money. I'm going to try to release the single that Tim from Kicking Harold did. I'm going to try to release it in like January. I'll send it to you. I'll email it to you so you can check it. I'll also send you that Reverberation track. Okay. But as soon as I can get the shit out, man, I'm going to get it out, because we're already trying to write new tunes and do something else stylistically different. So,
well, and it seems like the way to do it now is like you can, like, you know, do a single on Spotify and release that, you know, and it seems like the days of doing like full length albums are almost over. Am I correct in that? Or, I mean, like, at least for...
You're totally right, dude. Everybody is supposed to just take a song and then like hype it to death for like months. And I can't stand it, dude. I mean, I like to have the idea, like, I like the idea of like an album, you listen to the whole sort of process of it.
Sure.
You know, but I like to have everything out there. But yeah, you're supposed to be super patient, release a song, hype it, and then like a month or two later, release the next song or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's what we're going to do. We'll release the Hang Around and Suffer single, like I said, in January. And but we do have that single that's out on the Green Key Records compilation. So that's really cool. And shout out to the Green Key Records for releasing that, man. That's fucking cool. Anybody who's like just doing independent music and like communicates like you and me, like I hit you up and you were like, yeah, dude, let's try to make this happen. And then like we're total amateur hour because it's like Venice, right? But you're like, yeah, man, let's do it. Dude, anybody like that I have mad respect for. People who fucking like communicate with you, do what they say they're gonna do, and then just do it, dude. Like, I'll have no fucking problem with you. That's all that
keep coming back to Venice though, like it. That's funny. Well, hey, you know, like I said, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show. It's been a really great conversation. I wish we could have had consistent audio for the whole thing, but hey, you know, obla di, obla da, life goes on. But yeah, we got some great content, and thank you, Ryan, for coming on the show. One thing I want to do real quick is, you know, I plug my merchandising brand, hellsartco.bigcartel.com. Use code 20 for 20% off your entire order. Thank you. I'll throw up some samples here since we were giving much love to Black Flag here earlier. Here we go. Yeah, we got our little Black Flag Hell's Heart mock. Got the Steve, well, I can't say it, from that movie with Steve McQueen, from that movie with Anthony Perkins, the sequel to the really famous one. That movie with Rose McGowan where she gets closed in a dog door, that one's glow in the dark. And that movie with Jamie Kennedy where he gets hacked and slashed up, that one is also glow in the dark. But that's just kind of a subset of the samples. So you can head on over there to check out all of our stuff. And in fact, I might even play a little merch promo. It's got a little bit more on there. But yeah, again, I want to thank Happy Casualties for coming, and we made it happen. We did it again. So we'll have to do it again sometime in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks,
all right.
Jay.
Yeah, just hang out for like a few minutes or so afterwards, and we'll do a little post game. But I want to thank everybody. Namaste. God bless. Be good. Y'all are great.